The Formula 1 space is a big old mess because Scuderia Ferrari CEO John Elkann has made some comments about his drivers. Since one of these drivers is the underperforming 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton from Stevenage, England, many creators and outlets are upset. Many F1 fans didn't take it very well either. Well, I'm Wimbo from the Netherlands, and I have a different controversial opinion. Stick around if you can handle it. Let's start at the beginning here. What did John Elkann say? Brazil was a huge disappointment. If we look at the Formula 1 championship, we can say that on one hand we have our mechanics, who are actually winning the championship with their performance and everything they've done on the pit stops. If we look at our engineers, there's no doubt that the car has improved. If we look at the rest, it's not up to par. We certainly have drivers for whom it's important that they focus on driving and talk less, because we still have important races ahead of us, and it's not impossible to get second place. So let's analyze this. Brazil was a huge disappointment. A double DNF always is. Leclerc qualified very well and was taken out thanks to the racing incident between Oscar Piastri and Kimi Andrea Antonelli. I consider it a race incident. The penalty was bullshit. Lewis Hamilton managed to have 2 crashes in the first lap after he started from P13. That is very disappointing. No lies detected here. The line about the mechanics is very much about the pit stop competition, and perhaps also about how the cars are assembled every race. Ferrari is leading the pit stops, and as far as I know, the cars aren't falling to pieces or catching fire like a few years ago. So this part seems fair to me as well. Then the line about the engineers and how the car has improved. This is a little trick here. The car has been better lately compared to when it was at its worst. Charles Leclerc has been putting in stellar quali laps and has scored a bunch of podiums. A CEO who's trying to make a point at a convention about the Winter Olympics to businessmen is very likely to frame things like that. The internal issues about the SF25 and the problems with the ride height and the need to lift and coast every race are not something you discuss there. There's a time and a place for that. Remember what I said here. Then the quote about the drivers. This is what sent everyone mad. He said that they have drivers who need to talk less and focus more on driving. Right, well, I'm a small business owner and I tell my staff to talk less and do more work all the time, especially if we have deadlines. Getting Ferrari to that second place in the Formula 1 standings for 2025 is also a deadline, or at least a goal. So in itself, I take this more as a roll up your sleeves and get going type of comment. At this stage of the season, there's no point in spending too much time talking about how difficult it is, or how bad the car is, or how the car needs to be improved, or anything like that. The development race has finished for this season and the cards are dealt. This is what they have to work with. I have no problem whatsoever with a CEO who's paying these guys an absolute fortune, telling his staff members to get their finger out and stop yapping and do the fucking work. Am I right? Well, the British media and the fans took it very differently. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc both came out with statements of their own. The general reaction from the people I mentioned before is that Ferrari shouldn't blame their drivers for not winning any prizes, or races for that matter. The Maranello team has made promises many times and always seemed to underwhelm. They hired big names before, world champions, who all dreamt of doing what Schumacher did with Ferrari. Well, I suppose if you take Elkann's words in bad faith, you would feel like that. How dare the team that made such a bad car criticize their drivers, who are forced to drive it? My feeling is that the car was changed 99% because they knew Lewis Hamilton was coming, and they went all in. Alas, it didn't work out, and perhaps they should have carefully developed the SF24 further. That was a good car. In any case, Ferrari was hyped up to be the next team where Lewis Hamilton would get his 8th title. And now that the bubble has burst, someone needs to get the blame. There's also a lot of resistance to CEO and boards for some reason. Those guys should only okay all the expenses and stay out of things. I do agree that the goals of CEOs and teams don't always align when it comes to sporting goals. But in this case, I do believe Elkann wanted it all. a boost in the stock for Ferrari and results on track. Ferrari is famous for dropping team principles whenever things don't work out. Recently, Elkann backed Fred Vasseur after rumours about him getting replaced. Ferrari is always surrounded by rumours, all spread through the fanatical newspapers they have in Italy, all fed by which party wants to get what particular story out to manipulate things. The F1 fans and the media all say the rot inside of Ferrari is at the top and not at the team. Now, this may be true, but what are you going to do about it? You can sack a team principal, but not a CEO. This is why Christian Horner wants to be a team owner so badly. Lewis Hamilton signed for Ferrari knowing full well what they were like. Was he naive enough to think he could walk in there and change the oldest team on the grid? On the European mainland? Maybe he did have that delusion. He reacted on his Instagram saying the following: "Brazil, thanks for the love, always. It wasn't the race we wanted. It's gutting, especially after making some good progress. But we move on. I back my team, I back myself, I will not give up, not now, not then, not ever." Okay, first thing I noticed is that he confirms there is some good progress. This means some things are going right. Then he becomes a little egocentric again. This is how we know him really. He talks about my team. Well, it's not your team. It's Ferrari's shareholders' team. We know he always backs himself. All drivers do that. But he said I 3 times in that little post. The bit about not giving up is also quite telling. It's a bit like Checo Perez last year posting that meme about not leaving. It sounds combative, like he won't go down without a fight. I honestly believe that in his mind, he's doing everything he does with the best intentions, while carving out a new era of glory for himself. This is why, as soon as he started, he sent documents to the leading people at Ferrari to make his wishes known. From what I've heard, those wishes were looked at and judged not to be the way to go forward, as is their prerogative. Now, I haven't seen those ideas, so I can't judge them, but I do know he tried the same at Mercedes after he complained they didn't listen to him. The 2024 car had the seat moved more backwards and all kinds of things that would make it more competitive, but they weren't really. Therefore, he decided to get up and leave. See, having the fortune of being talented and landing at the strongest team for 8 seasons doesn't make you an expert on F1 cars. Yes, you may have learned a lot about how a tight ship like Mercedes was run, and you can give pointers to get things implemented at Ferrari, but we also know their culture is different. We have to respect that too. It's also very hard to get English talent over at Maranello, as they all prefer to stay in the UK. I think it's kind of romantic to see Ferrari doing things they always do. And who knows, someday it might all come together. What you can't do is barge in there as a newcomer and start trying to change things. And that's why the people at Maranello didn't accept it. There's unrest at Ferrari, something that follows Hamilton in every team he joins. He disrupts things, which is okay if you're winning and performing. His teammate is far more diplomatic. He speaks Italian, has been there for ages, and knows how to maneuver inside of the Scuderia. His Instagram post had a completely different tone. He said, "A very difficult weekend in Sao Paulo. Disappointing to come back home with nearly no points at all for the team in what is a critical moment of the season to fight for second place in the Constructors' Championship. It's uphill from now, and it's clear that only unity can help us turn that situation around in the last 3 races. We'll give it all, as always." My biggest takeaway is that he didn't use I once and used the same word unity as his boss did. He's exactly saying what Elkann said about fighting for the second place in the standings. I think he knows very well that the comment from John Elkann wasn't about him. The videos I watched on YouTube about this subject all concluded that it was about both drivers. I think the reason for them holding on to that is that they don't like the fact that Lewis Hamilton is singled out and he may be in danger of getting fired. I know with what Leclerc said, he definitely won't get fired. There's no ego in any of his words. It's all team and us, what he speaks about. As I'm writing this, word has come out that Elkann's words were directed at Lewis Hamilton. There have been stories about Hamilton not being happy and how he expected to have more influence. The Ferrari engineering team weren't happy about the comments Lewis Hamilton made about the car, so internal struggles were going on. As always at Ferrari, these things are leaked to newspapers and a mood is always being created. there are always fractions. It looks like there's a fraction who are not happy with Lewis Hamilton. I think John Elkann fired a warning to Lewis Hamilton that there is a time and a place to show your dissatisfaction, and one needs to accept that people higher in the hierarchy might not agree with your bright ideas. In that case, you put your head down and drive with what you've been given. Leclerc certainly does. He understands this old team very well. John Elkann had every right to deal with this little internal fire like this. He has a lot of different balls to keep in the air, and the Formula 1 thing is one of them. This is probably a controversial opinion, but if Lewis Hamilton is smart, he'll listen, because Elkann is not afraid to make a harsh decision. We don't want to see Lewis Hamilton get sacked now, do we? Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.